Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 707 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, and it's a grayish day here at the Beaver Lodge. But don't worry, I'll bring the sunshine. A big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, back at the grind, early morning rising and going to work, of course. But we will have him later in the week for you on the show as well. He'll be here on Friday to help bookend the week as we had a couple of pre-records because yours truly is going to take a couple of days vacation. That haven't taken much vacation since we started this. So yeah, I'm going to treat myself to a couple of days. How's your mental health doing, kids and cubs? Mine's doing well. Got more sleep last night. I actually went out to the garden and cut myself a couple bit of lavender and put it under the pillow. And that helped. I slept through the night, didn't wake up once, which was absolutely wonderful. And I'm now officially now, it took 2 or 3 days at the point where I am missing my beaver sweetie enough that I've decided to wear his t-shirt. Yes, I'm that person. Don't feel sad for me. Don't feel sad for me. I will have him back soon enough. But yes, I am now starting cuddle withdrawal. Yes. It's so hard. Actually, it's not that hard. I mean, it is hard. I love him. He's my boo. But uh, and I'm happy he's having fun, and I've got stuff planned as well as as I mentioned, I'm getting ready to go on a little vacation, so I've got stuff planned. It's an opportunity to do other things, but I do miss my daily dose of cuddles. I have to admit, but we talk to each other. We're in contact pretty much every day, so it's not like we're incommunicado or anything. But yeah, he's doing well and having wonderful time with family right now, and that's the good thing. All right, kids and cubs. Oh boy. Oh yes. Let's do the magic monitor. Let's see who's here with us today. We have Kit Kat W saying good morning. Kit Elaine here. Kit Uncover the News as well as with us. Kit Mohan is with us. Kit Playing with 3D also with us. Thank you. Kit Sharon says, Good morning, Canadian family. Kit Nona Carol, hello, is here in the chat with us as well. I think I said Kit Mohan before, but maybe I didn't. I did not. So good morning, Kit Mohan and family. Lovely to see you here. Kit Saucy is with us. Kit Jillian is as well. Hello, Kit Linda M. Good morning, dear one. Thank you for joining us. Kit Bucky is here with us. Hello, good day to you. Kit PNC Bio is also with us. Kit Hyper T 007 with Buen Dia Gente. And I'm going to say hello to you as well. Buen dia to you and the whole family. And who else do we have with us? Kit Grace is here saying, Good morning, everyone. Just made it. And Kit Frank is also here. Hello, dear one. Hope you are doing well. Who else do we have in the chat with us? Keep going down the list. I believe that's everyone, unless, nope, okay, nobody's sliding across the plate at the last moment. More people than yesterday. Of course, yesterday was a holiday in many parts of Canada. So if you had the day off and a long weekend, I hope that you had made the most of it. Given that we don't have that many of them and it is summertime, hopefully you had pleasant weather and you had some time with family or friends or to um, follow a pursuit that brings you joy that normally you don't have time for, but you had an extra day and that you were able to do something fabulous with the day. I myself yesterday got to go play some tennis again, and my foot, I have to report, is doing better. I was braver. I was bolder. I ran a little harder than I had been. This is my fourth time on the courts now, but still, still cautious. But there was one time where um, I got lost in the game a little bit. And I had a harder pivot, and I noticed it after I did it. And it was like, "Oh, gee, maybe I shouldn't do that." But it went well. uh, I felt it. Well, there's gonna be some discomfort or different sensation, I should say, not necessarily discomfort. So yeah, I did feel that different sensation, and that's what sort of prompted me. It was like, "Oh, yeah, maybe not to launch the ball that much yet." But I played the best player I think I've played yet, and this time I got to 4 games that I've won. Um, Unfortunately, this particular player seems to have my number on my serve because I could not win on my serve at all. So the 4 games I won were breakup serves. But up until now, I had only gotten to 3, and she was who I was playing yesterday was a better player than the 2 or 3 that I've played before. She had a really, really good placement and just enough acceleration that the ball would get there about like half a second or a second before I did. Often that can be frustrating. But for me yesterday, it wasn't frustrating. It was a good challenge. It gave me a chance to sort of push myself a little without pushing myself too hard and seeing what else I could do. And things seem to be holding up. So, yes, a little bolder, a little braver, and as a result, a little more success. So there you go. I've been finding the last 2 times I played, though, the racket heavier for some reason. I've been finding it harder to generate some whip and some racket speed as I'm hitting through the ball, which wasn't my problem at all at the beginning of the year. I started the year with um, all this extra speed and oomph for some reason. I don't know where it came from, but I'm having trouble finding it since I've come back. And I'm wondering if that might also be a foot thing. Just um, not able to push off my back foot enough when I'm making a hit to get enough whip on the ball. Because when I push off the back foot, that means that I'm shifting the pressure to the front foot, which is the one that I broke. I might still be babying myself there and not going for it as much as I normally do, or as I shouldn't even say normally do because I got to do it for about 2, 3 weeks for the first time ever this spring, and then I broke my foot. But that thing that I had acquired is not yet back. But you keep plugging away and you keep working at it. I'll have another match this morning at some time after the show, and give it another go, and then I'll have about a week off the court to give my foot a little bit of rest because I am feeling it. I have to say. I'm definitely feeling it. I think it was um, 2 days ago when I was on the court, I was thinking, you know what? Maybe I could have gone to Romania. And after playing yesterday, pushing it a little, it's like, yeah, no, I could not. My physiotherapist was indeed correct. I would not have been able to do all that walking, and certainly, definitely would not have been able to do the mountain. Mm. So, yeah, I'm now very um, good and at peace with my decision to not have gone. Because I was wondering a little bit, maybe should I? Maybe I could have pushed it a bit. I am someone who pushes himself. Again, I try to do it within reason, um, but I'm an impatient optimist. So, although I'm sure my physiotherapist would have liked that I wait a little longer before I get on the court in an ideal world, uh, I am doing it the right way for someone who's going a little early. But I just couldn't wait. But for the impatient optimist in me, knowing, I was really hoping to be able to go on the trip and was doing the physiotherapy, pretty fanatically, hoping that I would do it. And having done it fanatically has indeed enabled me to return to the court a little earlier and at least to play a bit. But the, the road was too long to get to the point where I'd be able to handle what we had planned in Romania. So that how my foot feels this morning, it felt a bit yesterday night. Like I said, just sort of like, okay, made the right decision. I feel good with that now. I'm not wondering maybe I could have, and so that frees you up a little bit mentally as well for other things, and will definitely allow me to enjoy the activities that I've planned for myself over the course of the month, mainly to keep myself busy, so I don't get too lonely. But that's okay. I have wonderful friends that are also made themselves available and are willing to spend time and do activities. So overall, things your beaver will be fine. It's just that when my beaver sweetie gets home, though, he better not have anything planned for a few hours because it's going to be a snuggle fest. Yeah. All right, kids and cubs. Thank you so much for all joining in today. We have some it's a bit slower news days. Interesting, at least for us in Canada. I would, I actually went to the CBC Politics website, and I'm on the CBC YouTube, and the number of new videos and the number of new articles coming in has been a trickle actually over the past little bit. Sometimes I was wondering if I would have enough for a full show, but of course, your intrepid beaver keeps digging and finds the stories in order to be able to curate to bring to you. But a couple of times over the last little bit, I've been uh, here at the Beaver Lodge trying to figure out, like, what do I even title this episode? There's like I've got like a couple of things here and there, and they're so disjointed, but I don't really have a theme. And then eventually something emerges, but it's been harder. Now, I'm not going to complain because, as you know, there was a time not that long ago where I was begging for slower news days. Could there be less news, please? So, not complaining, just noting. Let's put it that way. But there is indeed stuff, kits and cubs. First of all, we missed it on the first, but it was Emancipation Day here in Canada. So hopefully, um, for those who participated in some ceremonies with that or commemorated in their way. But Emancipation Day in Canada is observed annually on August 1st, so it was during the weekend, and it commemorates the enactment of the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 in the British Empire, which led to the end of slavery in many parts of the world, including Canada. A lot of people don't know that we did have slavery in Canada for some time. It's a day for Canadians to reflect on the history of slavery and its lasting impact on Black communities, as well as to celebrate the resilience and strength of those who fought for freedom. So, usually there are some events going on here in Canada for that, and hopefully, um, uh, those who participated in them were able to learn a lot over the course of the day. It's not only a day of remembrance, but also a call to action and encourages Canadians to learn about the history of slavery, acknowledge its legacy, and actively combat anti Black racism and discrimination. So, there you go. And there are various events throughout the country, such as flag raising ceremonies and community fairs, cultural events. The events often involve storytelling and musical performances and things of the sort. So, hopefully, if you did get to participate in any activities, they were both informative, commemorative, and why not? I said both, but let's add a third one, and enjoyable. Okay. Other things going on. Friend of the Beaver Lodge, Miss Camilla Mihalik, uh, is in Windsor, Ontario at the moment because um, things have started with regard to the Miss Universe Canada pageant. Uh, and she is, of course, a contestant. If you haven't seen our conversation with her from a little while ago, please invite you to check it out. But she is already there, and it seems, based on her Facebook feed, that she is having a wonderfully good time here. So I will show you a couple of pictures. Here we go. Over here at the airport in Vancouver, getting ready to make her way to Windsor here. Uh, so with her pageant sister, with whom she has a 12-year bond, and there she is, day one, registration, headshot, and humanitarian presentation. So there's her picture, and you see her sash, Camilla here, and then it seems that they went out to have some lunch, and there you go. Rocking the fashion, loving those shoes, loving the bag, loving how everything is coordinated. So, yeah, there we go. Um, they're doing all the behind the scenes competition at the moment, and preliminary contests start on the 7th, and then with the big final on the 9th. So if you happen to be in the area, then I think it's at the Chrysler Theater in Windsor, and you happen to want to get a ticket and cheer on Camilla, we will be rooting for her from the Beaver Lodge over here and hoping she's doing well. But yes, we are sending our best wishes, hoping that you are having fun right now, hoping that you're meeting a lot of people and building some good networks, and that you are as as calm as possible, because these types of competitions are nerve wracking. You know, you have a she was telling us when she was on the show, when she's doing the interviews with the judges, she gets about like 3 minutes with each, and that's about it. So you know, you want to be at your best and focused. So because you have very little time, and want to maximize the time and make a maximal impact as well. So, but you need to be centered and clear minded in order to be able to do that. So, hopefully, she is in a well rested and well accommodated and happy and healthy and all the good stuff, and able to deliver her best performance. And when you deliver your best performance, regardless of the regardless of the end result, you've achieved your personal best, and that's something to be proud of. So, fingers crossed that we will have another queen joining us after the 10th, joining the Beaver Lodge. But all our best to you, Camilla, and hope that you have a wonderful competition. Okay. So, oh, and other Beaver Lodge news, kits and cubs. Our YouTube channel, we are been informed, has officially crossed 650,000 views. So, thank you to everyone who has contributed in that manner by giving us the gift of your time and attention. Again, uh, never thought that what's going on now would be possible when we started this. Hoped it would be, but never thought it would be. And it's panning out and it's growing, and that's thanks to you and all the efforts you are making at sharing our content with your friends and family and with the world when you share it on socials, because you never know who stumbles upon it. So thank you for all of your help. We are growing, and let's see where this baby can go. All right. Let's see here, kids and cubs. What else do we have for you today? Over the course of the weekend, the Prime Minister has been spending time in British Columbia. As you saw on our show yesterday, he did make a stop in at Vancouver Pride. It seems it was a surprise stop. It's something that wasn't actually planned or on the schedule. So that's kind of cool. And he was there, of course, uh, to meet with the Premier of British Columbia, Mr. David Eby, because they have some things to discuss, of course. Softwood lumber being one of the major things, as there are increases in the tariffs there, and BC is particularly affected by it. But according to the Canadian press here, it said Prime Minister Mark Carney surprised attendees at Vancouver's Pride Parade Sunday afternoon after meeting with Premier David Eby and officials from the Vancouver port. Carney met with Vancouver Fraser Port Authority President and CEO Peter Jota and DP World Canada Chief Operating Officer Joel Werner in the morning, briefly appearing at a photo op with the two executives after pacing the port facility as a large container ship loomed above. The Prime Minister was then scheduled for a meeting with BC Premier David Eby that was closed to media as the province grapples with U.S. tariffs and renewed animosity in the long-running softwood lumber dispute. Then, of course, he surprised attendees at the Vancouver Pride Parade, marching for about a kilometer along the route beginning outside BC Place Stadium. He says that Pride represents the essence of Canada, celebrating diversity in a very positive way. Of course, the Prime Minister has a child who I believe is gender fluid, and unfortunately, there were people who decided um, to make a point of mentioning that, not necessarily in the kindest ways, over the course of the weekend, which prompted the usual, and uh, this is not me complaining about it, but the usual set of responses online, stating, leave the kids out of this. Stop going after the kids. And again, it's something I believe in as well, unless the kids are, like Trump kids, directly involved in the administration. Um, there's no need to bring any politicians' kids into it at all. But yes, some people did that. I think that's the weird thing about, not the weird thing, not the weird thing, like there's just one. Uh, but the things about social media, there used to be a time where people, if they didn't agree with that lifestyle, um, you know, that's pretty much all they would say. I don't agree with your lifestyle. Not that it's a lifestyle, um, but I don't agree with your lifestyle, and that was it. But now it's uh, now people are like, because of social media, and you can have direct contact with people. Um, Now people are reaching in to other people's lives and feeling that I have a not only is like not only do I tisk tisk disapprove and shake my head and quiet, or mention it to a couple of friends who might be like-minded, but I feel I have a duty to go to social media and reach in to your life and tell you how to live or make you feel bad or insult you or campaign against you specifically or do something to make your life or your day miserable or unpleasant. Right? I'm It's like the total opposite of live and let live. It's like live and make sure that everybody else gets to live in peace if they don't live the way you do, which is really weird to me. Very, very weird to me. Um, yeah, I guess I was raised differently, um, but I don't, I don't believe in going out of my way to make somebody's day terrible. But apparently, that's a thing now. That's a thing now. So yes, some people are indeed trying to get to the prime minister in some way by making online attacks on one of his children. I don't know, man. That's again, I just don't understand that behavior. But what can you do? What can you do these days? Um, Now it seems that there's other things that the prime minister is doing. The prime minister is also going to spend another day in British Columbia, starting with a morning visit to a wood product manufacturing facility in West Kelowna, where, according to his office, he'll outline new measures to support the industry transformation and innovation, and will take questions from the media at around 10 p.m. Pacific time. So, for those who are interested in the softwood lumber issue, uh, and that's a big issue. It's particularly if you're in BC, there will be something there to address that. Um, let's see what else does it say here. And also, according to the CBC, he also toured a Canadian Forces facility on Vancouver Island on Monday. He toured the Canadian Forces Maritime Experimental and Test Ranges facility near Nanoose Bay outside Nanaimo with officials from the Canadian Navy. He toured the Royal Canadian Navy vessel Sikani, accompanied by Navy Commander Vice Admiral Angus Topshee and Commanding Officer Craig Piccolo from the testing facility. And then, of course, um, they're talking about when you're talking about softwood lumber here. The visit to the province comes amid renewed tensions in the dispute with the U.S., which has placed anti dumping duties on softwood lumber products that the BC Council of Forest Industries has condemned as, quote, unjustified and punitive trade actions. So this one is not tariffs specifically, but anti dumping duties. I mean, at the end of the day, they're all extra fees and extra costs, right? Uh, just by different names, but these technically aren't tariffs in the way that they are for the other things. But yes, Donald Trump trying to hurt us in every way possible. Again, wants to break us so that he can own us, and we therefore must resist. We just must. So that's what the prime minister is doing today. On the trade front, um, based on comments made by Dominique Leblanc, who's one of our 2 point people here on trade, the other one being, particularly with the United States here, the other one being the ambassador of Canada to the United States, Kirsten Hillman. Um, Dominique Leblanc gave the impression in some um, things are a bit on a pause for the moment. Uh, it feels a little bit like um, oh God, Ross and Rachel on Friends. We're on a break. And it seems that while we are on a break, we are talking to other people. So let's first look at what Mr. LeBlanc had to say with about basically the August 1st date, just having come and gone without really a deal, uh, mainly because it would appear that Team Trump doesn't want one at the moment. Again, we're showing up as honest brokers. We're ready, willing, and able to deal, but there is no good deal on the table. And Donald Trump would like us to just accept his first offer and run with that. And that's not something we're prepared to do. So it seems that, again, we are being very difficult to deal with and probably, again, still mean and nasty. Oh, well. And let's see here what Mr. LeBlanc has had to say um, with regard to the status of the trade discussions with the United States at the moment.
Next week, I'll be in Ottawa participating with the Prime Minister in consultations, for example, with Métis Nations around getting major projects done quickly. Our focus is going to turn to what we need to do to ensure that key sectors of the Canadian economy, steel, aluminum, automobiles, lumber, are able to go through this difficult period with these sectoral tariffs applying as they do around the world. We're going to focus on what's necessary to support those businesses and focus on the things we need to do to build one Canadian economy and get major nation-building projects done quickly.
What seems to be the sticking point in the negotiations?
But not one economic relationship with the United States is like another. So you see different countries conclude agreements with different levels of specificity because their conversations are different than all the other countries. So Canada has one of the most integrated economic relationships with the United States. That's why the sectoral tariffs are necessarily so difficult for us, but the government of Canada will do what we have to do to support those industries. My conversations with Secretary Lutnick have been constructive. We've learned a lot this week again of what the Americans are concerned about and where the opportunity might be at the right moment to get the best deal for Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. We've said many times, the Prime Minister's repeated it, that we're not going to accept any deal because of an arbitrary timeline that the Americans set. We're going to do the work that's necessary to get the best deal for the country. If yesterday afternoon that deal wasn't clearly on the table, then we'll continue to talk to the Americans. I agreed with Secretary Lutnick that we'd talk on the phone next week and figure out a chance to get together again later in August. But in the meantime, we have important work to do at home, building the resiliency of the Canadian economy. Canadians elected us to get major projects done quickly, so that's going to be obviously a huge focus in the coming weeks and months.
What's your message to Canadians who are reading the news today and they're worried about their jobs and things potentially costing more because of these tariffs?
I think Canadians need to understand that the Prime Minister has been clear from the very beginning that the government will do what is necessary to support sectors of the Canadian economy and workers that are facing an unjustified trade action by the United States. We're working obviously with provinces and territories in a very collaborative way to ensure that we have the right series of measures to support Canadian businesses and workers. But we've also said to Canadians that we can give ourselves a lot more than any other foreign country can take away. So we can build big things in the Canadian economy in the coming months and the coming years. We can do so with Canadian labor and Canadian workers and Canadian steel and Canadian aluminum. And we can also, the rest of the world is knocking at Canada's door to increase their trading opportunities with us. Every international trip the Prime Minister goes on, he comes back and tells us that international businesses and other foreign heads of government are anxious to collaborate with Canada. We were elected on a mandate to build the strongest economy in the G7. That comes from diversifying our trading relationships, building big projects at home, but recognizing that the United States will continue to be our neighbor, continue to be our most important economic and security partner. So we need to walk and chew gum at the same time. We need to be able to have constructive conversations with them, do what's necessary in the best interest of the Canadian economy, but be less dependent and more resilient on our own.
Do you know when you're coming back to Washington?
I would expect I'll be back later in August. As I say, I would expect to talk to Howard Lutnick next week. He and I agreed that we'd get together in the coming weeks. I know Ambassador Hillman is continuing to talk to counterparts in the American administration and on Capitol Hill. So the doors aren't closed, the doors are open, the conversations are ongoing, and we'll do the work necessary to get the right deal for Canadians, not simply any deal.
There you have it, kids and cubs. So status on where things are at the moment. As you can tell here, you have to read between the lines here, but we'll be talking later in the month. I suppose we'll be meeting at some time later. Right now, we have these things to do in the meantime. So yeah, there's probably not much going on but the rent at the moment. But like I said, it's not like we're working on just one track. We are working on this dual track, trying to get the best deal possible with the United States, no longer with any particular timelines, and realizing that now we do have an advantage in dragging things out if need be. And also a reminder that this deadline is the one that the President of the United States himself set and then blew past. Right? We had nothing to do with this other than not wanting to lie back and take it. So he's the one that's not meeting the deadline. It's not us in this particular case. And he was the one, the July 21st deadline that had originally been established 30 days after the meeting or whatnot, the G7 meeting. It was also Trump who blew past that one by pushing it back to August 1st. In there, Dominic LeBlanc did mention that meanwhile back home there's other things to do, like the meeting with the Métis. I don't know if it has been confirmed for August 7th, but that was the date that Victoria Purdon, I believe it is, who is the president of the Métis National Council, mentioned as the date that had been floated when they had the meetings between First Nations community representation and the premiers in Muskoka a few weeks ago. So it looks like, if Dominic LeBlanc is referring to that, it looks like it will be at some point this week in there. So that is good. Also mentioning that the lines of communication are indeed still open, and there's no reason for which they wouldn't be in this case. But not too much activity. So it's almost like, it's taking a breather, taking a pause, and that type of stuff. Now, sometimes it's good to do that just for cooler heads, but it's not like the United States doesn't have a lot on its own plate going on too. I mean, it's trying to negotiate deals allegedly with 200 nations at the same time. So, and there's stuff going on in Ukraine, and there's stuff going on in Gaza, and then there's right. So the United States kind of has its hands full at the moment too. And then, of course, the president has his hands full with the Epstein files and everything else that he's trying to distract from, and firing the directors of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because that's always a good thing. That inspires confidence. Yee. Yesterday, trade in Canada, stock markets and everything were closed. But yesterday in the United States, there was bound on the Dow for everything that had been lost on Friday. So I'm guessing, again, the world markets are dismissing Trump's threats. Today, if I'm looking at the Asia Pacific markets, pretty much everything is up. European markets, everything is up without exception. And the implied openings here on the North American stock markets are also showing us slightly up. So again, he keeps on talking tariffs and all of that, but it seems that the market keeps on shrugging it off at the moment. From the best that I can understand, this is abnormal behavior for the market. We would expect the market to be a little more turbulent at the moment, but it seems that a lot of the growth in the market is coming from technologically based uh, areas, particular things having to do with AI. That there's so the market seems to believe at the moment that there's a bigger, much more to gain in high tech and AI and data centers and stuff like that than there is to lose so far from Trump yo-yoing on trade and on tariffs. Um, but once everything starts to hit, things might hit hard and sudden because in the United States right now, if you are paying attention, with the job numbers revisions that cut, um, it basically indicated that there were 258,000 fewer jobs created in May and in June than had been originally suspected. Uh, Recent economic data has shown that unemployment has ticked up a little bit. Again, unemployment in the United States is lower than in Canada, but whereas in Canada our unemployment rate went down 0.1% the last time we had a number, theirs went up. Now, of course, you'd have to see it over several months, but to say that there's a trend, but you have that, and then we had the economic numbers that were showing that there was a 3% boost in GDP in the United States, but that was attributable to people making big ticket purchases before more tariffs would come in. So there's a bit of a distortion. And if you look at both quarters together, growth for the first half of the year is at 1.2%, which is right, not great. It's not high level growth. So you have basically rising unemployment a little bit, not enough to say it's a trend, but rising unemployment, slow economic growth, and rising inflation. The most recent inflation numbers in the United States show that inflation was rising, and it's the target is about 2%, and the United States is closing in on 3 here. Again, rising inflation, increasing unemployment, and slow economic growth. Those are the 3 criteria you need to be in stagflation. And stagflation is something that a lot of people consider, and the economists consider, worse than inflation. Um, Ironically, uh, the low job numbers that caused Donald Trump to fire the director of the Bureau of, I keep on saying it wrong, Bureau of Labor Statistics, I think it's BLS, might help him to get those lower interest rates he wants, for which he was threatening to fire Jerome Powell. There's also news from the States that one of the directors of the Federal Reserve has resigned. A lot of people are looking to make big hay of this, but it turns out that one shouldn't because this director's term was over at the end of the year anyway. But a lot of people are wondering if Trump will use this opportunity to bring in someone to the Federal Reserve who might be the one he would like to tap. To tap. God, I don't want to have any visions of Trump tapping anything. Name to be the Fed chair eventually. I know that there's one of the directors that already on one of the members on the board that Trump already had his eye on because there were 2 who had dissented with the Jerome Powell's decision to not cut interest rates last time around. That was on July 30th. So the Fed wasn't cutting interest rates partially because the employment numbers were so good. But if those employment numbers aren't as good, then there would be a case, maybe, to make a cut at the next meeting of the Fed, which is something that would make Donald Trump happy. So you would think he would give the director of the Bureau of Labor Statistics a promotion for having revised the numbers downwards, which could create the situation he wants with interest rates. But he doesn't think past the current nanosecond. So, um, he fired that person instead. And yeah, uh, thus increasing the level of instability globally, because now everybody's going to wonder if the next person, when they put out the numbers, are those numbers designed for the world to understand how the United States is doing, or to please the audience of one. And that's not a good sign when that starts happening. Markets don't particularly like that, but oh well. Again, I keep on saying, if the United States wants to repeatedly punch itself in the dick, I'm not going to stop them. So we have Dominic Leblanc given his assessment of it, using some very being very deliberate with his word choice, to sort of indicate that yes, there is indeed um, we are moving on to other things in the meanwhile, because we have other priorities. And that other priority would be working on the second track. So the first one being trying to get a deal with the United States that can be somewhat acceptable or workable. But then on the other track, continuing with our diversification and of our trade, diversification of our trade partners, and trying to redirect or reorient our economy, which is probably the bigger job of the two in normal times, because in normal times we would be dealing with a rational actor in the United States who would, would like to get some wins, but would have no problem with us having some wins too. But in Trump world, he has to win everything and we have to lose everything. So we do not have a rational actor here, and so the whole part about what we're doing in the meantime, as we are buying time, because essentially that's what we're doing. We're marking time now and we're buying time in order to get more stuff uh, on the second track completed and underway. Um, and then hopefully time will do, and time will do what it does in the United States, and other pressures will come to bear on the president of the United States, which might clarify the mind and make him more amenable to making a deal that isn't totally exploitive. Let's put it in that sense. Um, again, Dominic LeBlanc here said, we have always said that we would not accept just any agreement. We would accept an agreement that was in the interest of workers in the Canadian economy. And at the end of the day, yesterday, that agreement was not yet in sight. And that's pretty much all that there is to it. So we keep the lines of communication open, and we hope that um, something will unblock somewhere else, um, that will allow us to move the ball forward. There's another not another development, but Jean Charest, who is a member of the Prime Minister's Council on U.S. Relations, um, had also had some interesting things to say about um, the situation in the United States. And there's a bit here that I want to play for you. However, this is the first time that I'm going to try something like this. So I do not know if this is going to work, kits and cubs. So if you are here in the chat, if you could tell me if it does, I would appreciate it, because normally I play clips for you that are video. This one is an audio only. So I'm hoping that the sound will go through, but I've never tried this. So if you will bear with me for a second here, kids and cubs, I do need to load it up, and hopefully won't blast your ears with sound. So you might actually hear a sound that I'm not intending to play here for a second, and I apologize for that as I find it. We go. I knew that something like that would happen. All right, kids and cubs. Then I will try to find the spot where Mr. Charest is making this comment. But yeah, it was a very interesting take on something here. I've got it for you. And let's listen to this. Hopefully, kits and cubs, you will hear it. Let me know if you do. All right.
Decided to not move on reducing interest rates, which are much higher than they are in Canada. So this story is far from being over.
Meanwhile, of course, many are calling for Canada to hit back. We heard from Doug Ford on that. Yesterday, I spoke with Lana Payne, head of Unifor, Canada's largest private sector union. Here's part of what she had to say.
We can't roll over. That's not an option here, because what will happen is the appetite for concessions from this president will continue to grow. And so there has to be a line in the sand. And Canada actually is one of the few nations with leverage here, and we're going to need to use it.
Mr. Charest, how will you be counseling the Prime Minister on this? Should Canada retaliate?
We need to keep everything on the table, including retaliation, and we can retaliate in sectors that would have very severe consequences for the American economy. Energy is an example of that. Potash, where American agriculture sector needs our fertilizer and can't do without it, and we're the main supplier, whether it's uranium, strategic minerals, even aluminum and steel, for which they absolutely need. But we need to, take a step back. Right now, close to no one has the true grip on the number, but it's up to 90% of the merchandise going back and forth is free of tariffs. So let's take our time here to look at what our options are, keep them on the table, and if we need be, we can use some of them. Now, keep something in mind. If we do that, we are also hurting ourselves. There is no simple, easy choice here involved, and we're conscious of that. And we choose to, retaliate and to hurt our own economy to be able to respond. But that is part of the calculation if we choose to retaliate.
What do you make of Trump's reaction to Mark Carney's announcement on Canada's position on Palestinian statehood, drawing that into the trade talks? I think he's, after first making comments saying that it would make things harder, I think Trump is also saying it wouldn't be a deal breaker, but drawing politics of that type into the trade talks kind of seems like uncharted waters in a way, doesn't it? I mean, should Canada respond on that basis?
Well, this is hubris. Clearly. We're talking about trade. He's introduced another issue. By the way, just to be fully, nuanced on this issue, Canada does consult with its allies on these matters, France, Great Britain, and the United States. And yes, we do care about what our allies think on this matter. At the end of the day, we make our own decisions. These are sovereign decisions for which the Prime Minister of Canada is accountable to the Canadian people, not the American president. And Canada is not a vassal state. And so this is an overreach.
President.
So, John Charest, not mincing words at all here. Right? Definite overreach on the part of the United States, and particularly with, wanting to bring other issues in, like the Palestinian issue and the fact that we have a sovereign and a distinct foreign policy of our own, not liking that, which is very similar to what he's doing in Brazil as well. And I've noticed some comments here and in the chat today, kids are talking about Brazil as well and what's going on. But as we mentioned on the show previously, the 50% tariffs on Brazil, mostly because the country insists on pursuing their former president, Jair Bolsonaro, for having allegedly plotted a coup. Of course, Trump doesn't want anybody getting any ideas that this might be a good thing, course of action. So, so of course, he is taking a personal issue and trying to make a trade issue out of it. According to Kit Uncover the News here, Brazil's Supreme Court ordered the House arrest for former President Jair Bolsonaro on Monday, saying he had violated precautionary measures imposed on him. Oh, well, Too bad. So yeah, uh, the overreach with this is good. Is important to note. And yes, we are not a vassal state. We will do. Uh, we will do what we do. So the story is far from over. Basically, is Jean Charest's uh, take here on this, and that we should not be doing stuff that Scott Moe is asking us to do. We should not be panicking at this moment. We take a deep breath and we take a look at the lay of the land, and then we chart our path forward. With regard to the United States, again, keep it on mentioning that the deals that he allegedly has are not deals, but rather announceables. They are perpetual adjustments to the United States deciding how it's going to, repeatedly punch itself. And the U.S. consumer hasn't felt the entire weight of this yet for many reasons. Some importers are not passing on the entirety of the costs at the moment, hoping that good sense will come to Trump and that he will reverse himself on some of these things. There's also the court case there, and there's also the fact that people pre-purchased up to almost a year's worth of what they would have needed to keep in business in order to avoid tariffs. And all of that is working its way through the system. But when people are talking about the importers not passing on the entire cost at the moment, that does have a cost in that if profits are lower, then planning for hiring gets affected. Planning for growth and investment gets affected. Planning for future investment in research and development becomes affected. And these are all things that maybe don't show up in the economy immediately, but they do down the road, right? Everything is a trade-off, right? The money you don't take in now, or you choose not to take in now, hoping that this flows over, is money you don't have available to do other things with later on. So some of these things are still time delayed when they will show up in the United States. They won't be able to increase salaries as much. For example, if there's a trade negotiation or labor negotiation and these types of things. So no matter how you slice it, the citizens end up paying, whether it shows up now, whether it shows up 6 months down the road, whether it shows up in lower salary increases, whether it shows up in slowdown in hiring a couple of months down the road. But the citizens end up paying for this eventually. I mentioned the unemployment rate in the United States rose to 4.2%, with just 73,000 jobs being created in July. The main numbers were revised downwards from a 144,000 net gain in jobs to only 19,000, which was a downward revision of 125,000. The June numbers were revised downwards from 147,000 jobs to 14,000 jobs, which was a downward revision of 134,000 jobs. These are the weakest numbers since December 2020, and the pace of job creation in the United States is the weakest in decades outside of a recession. Again, when we're talking about the elements needed for stagflation, there you go. Now, us taking time to do other things and having a pause, what's going on, as we mentioned, maybe doesn't have so much to do with us or that the United States is not interested in us, but just because the United States has bigger fish to fry. Because this week, Friday, is the end of the week or the end of the time period to which Donald Trump offered an ultimatum to Vladimir Putin to stop its war, right? He gave Vladimir Putin 50 days of runway when he announced this a while ago, that he might have to take some action. And he said that he might have to impose some sanctions of his own, focusing mainly on secondary sanctions of nations that are doing business with Russia. The Trump administration did announce recently 25% tariff on India and part of that, it seems, is due to the fact that India is buying a lot of Russian oil. I think, if I'm not mistaken, based on what I heard, China and India together are basically buying 80% of what Russia has on the market, and that's the money with which Russia is still fueling its war in Ukraine. And people are saying that even um, the what India and China are purchasing at the moment would be enough to fund the war probably for another year still. And whether or not Ukraine would be able to resist that long, whether or not that 1 year would be enough time for Russia to then march in and achieve its ultimate goals in Ukraine is the question out there. So some people might be looking to take some stronger action on that at the moment. There's also, conversely, I don't even know if conversely is the word the proper word to use here, but also it seems that the OPEC plus nations, so the OPEC and then there's a group of 10 other nations, have agreed to another production output increase, which would negate or completely um, end the pullback that they did a while ago. They had stopped pumping, I think, at 2.2 million barrels a day at some point to in order to affect the price, to get some price stability. And over the last while, OPEC has been announcing production increases slowly but surely. And the most recent one that they've announced would basically uh, put back those 2.2 million barrels per day that they had taken out of production in completely. So we'd go back to where we were before this type of action had started in terms of the amount of production. So these are all things that might influence price seem to be happening simultaneously, and I don't know how all of these things will work together. But that's what's going on in these circles at the moment. As if you've been following the news, the United States had deployed submarines to the region after Russian President Medvedev issued some threats. Donald Trump made some statement about him having a fresh mouth. Uh, also saying that a lot of people, his announcement that he had deployed those subs to the region made a lot of people ask, wait a minute, do you mean that that region was not being covered before? Are you sure that's a message you want people to know, that there are times where you're not covering that region? So, yeah, there might be some splaining to do with regard to that announcement. Putin is on the record as saying that whatever the United States does, it will not make him change course. Putin still doesn't fear Trump enough, or doesn't think that Trump has the follow through required, whereas Vladimir Putin keeps on saying, yes, yes, absolutely, we're all for a ceasefire, but first I want to achieve my goals. So, in other words, he's not for any type of ceasefire. Um, Russian state media apparently barely covered the development about the positioning of the submarines. In a post on Telegram, a member of the Russian State Duma, who's a former army officer, called Trump's announcement, quote, a fresh statement with the a fresh statement with the same old pop that no longer works. We don't bet on Trump, just as we don't bet on Biden. We bet on ourselves. So, yeah. So this week here, potential pivotal moment, because the deadline that Trump imposed was on the 8th. And then we'll find out whether or not there will be additional sanctions on secondary sanctions on states that do buy Russian oil, in order to try to deter that. The rest of the partners that are imposing sanctions would really, really, really welcome that. Welcome the United States to match sanctions already imposed, or to do this type of thing. So yeah, we'll see. We know that Trump doesn't like being laughed at or humiliated, and is starting to maybe perhaps feel that Vlad hasn't been totally honest with him. Or that Vlad might be mocking him from the sidelines. And so maybe there will be some follow through this time. But as in the process, the next step that's going on here is that Trump has a special envoy named Steve Witkoff, who is expected to be in Moscow midweek, just before the deadline. And we'll see what that yields. I'm guessing is that probably not much, because Putin uh, doesn't react to threats. He reacts to actual things being done. So Trump will actually have to declare some actions, and other nations, getting together to put them in effect. If indeed there's going to be some movement from Putin, but Putin is not going to move before there's any actual pressure that has been declared that might cause him to have to. He's not. The threats alone are not enough to move him. That's been pretty well established. On our end, however, we've got stuff to do. And it seems that we are moving forward, shoring up relations with other nations. And on the menu or on the agenda at the moment is Mexico. So right now we're saying, see y'all later, or see y'all soon, United States, and then turning our heads and going, Hola, Mexico. Looking good. So it seems that Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne confirmed that he and Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand will be traveling to Mexico City in an effort to strengthen Canada's trade ties with Mexico. The ministers are expected to return to Canada on Thursday, so it'll be a 2-day meeting, according to 2 senior Canadian government sources. José Díaz Briceño, a correspondent for Reforma, says he predicts parties will engage in general dialogue about trade issues, including diversification and addressing irritants to the Canadian-Mexican relationship. When he was making the commentary, he also noted, and I had missed this at first, so I'm glad he did, that Minister LeBlanc and Ambassador Hillman are not going. And that's important because those are the 2 people that Team Canada has appointed as their official point persons on trade with the United States. We are sending the finance minister and the minister of foreign affairs. So these talks are probably going to be a little bit broader than just trade and just the CUSMA deal or NAFTA 2. But there will be talks held specifically with President Claudia Sheinbaum and other officials. So, and it seems that this is indeed with the goal to lay the work for a more formal meeting between the Prime Minister of Canada and the President of Mexico, though he had invited her to the G7 and they have met and started to establish a relationship prior to this. But it seems that indeed we are looking at shoring up our relationship with Mexico, which we should. Of course, we've had the announcement, I think it was last week or the week before, of the trade corridor, direct trade corridor between United States and Mexico that bypasses the United States. So a corridor by air and by sea. That would allow us to trade directly to Mexico and not send our goods through the United States, thus removing all that business from the United States. And I think that the whole corridor can have about 120 billion, is estimated at being able to generate $120 billion worth of business there. At the moment, we have to remember that Mexico is a very very quickly growing economy. At the moment, Canada is the 10th or the 11th largest economy in the world. It won't be long before Mexico is a bigger economy than ours. Again, population alone makes it to there are 200 million people in Mexico and only 42 million of us here, right? So Mexico eventually will become a larger economy than ours, but we only do about $56 billion in annual trade. So there's more that we can do there, right? So it seems, again, it's one of those things where Canada has so many trade agreements with so many nations, but we haven't maximized it. So it would be an opportunity in order an opportunity for us to do that now, since we've already done the hard work of putting those trade agreements in place. Why not? We maximize what it is that we are doing with other nations in order to get as much benefit from it as possible. With regard to trade with Mexico here and these meetings, I believe that we have the Minister of Foreign Affairs here, François-Philippe Champagne, offering us a few words as to what it is.
What he had to say.
We've been saying that we want to engage further with Mexico, a strategic partner. Very important as well in the context of the USMCA, Canada and Mexico share a lot. We want to diversify market. We want to look at exports. We want to look at how we can do more together.
So the ministers are expected to be in Mexico City for the next 2 days. Well, they're taking part in meetings. As I say, sources are telling CBC News that this could be laying the groundwork for a meeting between Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Mexican president. Carney, of course, has met with President Sheinbaum before at the G7, spoken to her many times as well. So again, this is all about trying to lay more groundwork between these two trading partners who are trying to deal with a very unpredictable senior partner, if you will, in the United States, as they're both trying to navigate really the unpredictability of Donald Trump and his trade policies.
So that was Tom Perry of CBC News there. He's delivering the report. And then François-Philippe Champagne repeating some of the things that I said here. But François-Philippe Champagne making note of the importance here of dealing with Mexico. And according to the Trade Commissioner Service, Canada currently has 15 free trade agreements in force. These agreements provide preferential access to over 51 countries, representing a market of 1.5 billion consumers. These agreements cover approximately 61% of the world's GDP. So again, we have a huge, massive sandbox in which to play in, because we negotiated all these deals. But again, it was just much easier for us, as I keep on saying, to put our hands behind our heads, our foot up on the desk, and saying, look at all this business that we're doing with the United States, and look how we're growing our economy doing that. Why do we need to invest the time and all that in building these relationships with other businesses and other companies in other nations when we can just ship it down south? It's so much simpler, so much easier. And that is what we did. And we took the path of least resistance for the longest time. But turns out that our biggest trading partner is now becoming not only our biggest competitor, but someone actively, a nation that is actively seeking to hinder us. So we do have to now do that harder work of establishing these relationships with other nations across the globe. On the upside, Trump is doing the same thing to all these other nations, so they also have motivation to deal with us now, particularly Switzerland. If I'm hearing Switzerland is not happy at all. They got slapped with 39% tariffs, and they're like, they can't figure out why. Why they've been singled out by some special treatment, and apparently they are sending a delegation there. But apparently some media are reporting that there is some panic there. I'm not sure how accurate that is, or whether or not that's the overall sentiment, or whether or not it's just the sentiment from certain quarters. But panic is definitely not going to be helpful in this case. In Canada, we are showing the keep calm and Carney on model. Of course, our relationship with the United States is also very different. We have more leverage with the United States than Switzerland has, of course, because just by the size of our trade relationship and how we can have impact over there, even though we don't have as much leverage with the United States as it does with us. We definitely have more leverage with the United States than Switzerland does. So the reactions of our nations are indeed going to be different here. Okay. So sending Anand and François-Philippe Champagne also has the benefit strategically of having a little bit of a fig leaf of deniability. If we had sent LeBlanc and Hillman, it really sends the message, okay, United States, you won't deal with us, then we'll send our people to negotiate something better with Mexico, and we're going to gang up against you. And that could cause Trump to have another tantrum and do something wild. But, we can turn around and say, well, we didn't send our trade negotiators. I mean, we sent our Minister of Foreign Affairs and our Minister of Finance. I mean, Mexico's a trading partner. Of course we would do that. We're building our relationship. So don't worry. What you think is going on is not going on. What you think is going on is going on. But it gives us that fig leaf of deniability, if you want to put it that way. So, yeah. We are dealing with Mexico here. According to there was a media advisory issued by the federal government as well, government of Canada, and says that they're set to arrive in the capital today, whereas, quote, as part of an ongoing efforts to deepen bilateral cooperation and advance shared economic interests. They'll meet with their respective counterparts, as well as a, quote, large group of Canadian and Mexican business leaders, including key players supporting North America's integrated economy, trade infrastructure, and supply chains. And again, as we mentioned on the itinerary, a closed-door chat with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, and as per the advisory, will, quote, serve to strengthen bilateral dialogue in anticipation of an upcoming visit to Mexico. So on the news report that we just saw, we're talking about potential, or maybe this was to lay the groundwork. It has actually been confirmed that the purpose of this is to set up such a meeting. In that interview with Radio Canada, Minister Champagne also took care to frame the meeting as complementary to what we've been saying, that we need to engage with strategic partners around the world, and not in addition to, and not in lieu of, which again might be for consumption by Donald Trump. No, we're not leaving you behind. We're just also doing this. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. That's the ticket. You're still important, but we're also doing this. Yeah, that's it. I think we're getting to the point, kits and cubs here, where we might be signaling rather clearly that to Trump and the administration, girl, we are over you. We are really over you, and we are over this, whatever it is that you're trying to do here. So you keep doing what you do, and we're gonna do ourselves here. According to Benjamin Lopez Steven here, he's got a little more to say about the outreach to Mexico here, saying that, let me see here if there's anything I haven't mentioned before. A source, one of the two sources, said that the trip was all about relationship building. That's a quote. And the two ministers expected the meeting with Sheinbaum would lay the groundwork for the future bilateral meeting, of course. Carney and Sheinbaum have spoken at least 4 times since the prime minister came into office. In June, the two met at the G7 Leaders Summit in Alberta. A news release posted on Carney's website said that he and Sheinbaum agreed to deepen bilateral collaboration at the ministerial level and looked forward to meeting again in Mexico in the coming months. So this might have something to do with that. Arturo Sarucan, a former ambassador of Mexico to the United States, told CBC News he thinks, quote, it's high time that the coordination between Mexican and Canadian government kicks off in earnest. Quote, there's really been very little engagement in terms of how we can both engage together vis-a-vis a common trade partner that is eviscerating all the rules of trade that have built this incredible success story of North American trade over the past 3 decades. So there we go as well. Trying to see there, of course, there's a little bit of divide and conquer going on with the United States by having given Mexico a 90-day reprieve on additional tariffs and us raising ours from 25 to 35%. But then again, that probably has to do more with the leverage that we have, the different relationships between the nations. Again, given that our trade with the United States is much more extensive and much more integrated, we did have the wherewithal to impose some counter sanctions at some point and to resist and to make some public statements, whereas Mexico took a more quiet and a cooperative path up until now because they don't have necessarily that leverage. But then, of course, Mexico has other things that it could put on the table. Like, for example, when Donald Trump talks about drugs and all that kind of stuff, they were able to make a deal at some point to surrender certain people to the United States or for extradition and that type of stuff that have to do with the drugs and cartels and whatnot, which we do not have, to put on the table. So Mexico has other cards to play that we don't, to give the United States the impression that it is willing to show up and collaborate and give Donald Trump a few wins in exchange for some certain things, given the difference in our border issues, for example, and in drugs crossing the border as well. So we're both playing our hands to the best of our ability, but yes, so far there hasn't been much talk between us. And the first time around as well, there wasn't much of that as well. And often in these talks, there are often certain people from the sidelines who keep on preaching that we should cut bait on Mexico and just go for the best bilateral deal, which is dumb. It's just dumb. It's a trilateral deal, and Mexico can be an ally and a much needed ally. The last thing you want to be is in a one-on-one relationship with the United States, particularly when there's a Trump there, where there's a much bigger power imbalance than if it's a one versus two. So it's nice to see the Canadians finally taking steps to coordinate and strategize with Mexico and to look at, is there? I mean, there might be. Mexico might have some steel and aluminum needs and potash needs and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that we're selling to the United States that Mexico might want in on, and vice versa, right? So again, a market of 200 million people, that's nothing to sneeze at. So yeah, Mexico. Let's talk. Let's get to know each other a little better. Let's see if we can do more trade between us independently of the United States and help protect ourselves here, right? When Prime Minister Carney says we can be our own best customer in Canada, I guess 42 million strong. Well, why don't we add another 200 million there? There's a lot of things that we sell to the United States that we could sell to Mexico. It's not like Mexico doesn't need steel or aluminium, doesn't need critical minerals, doesn't need potash, doesn't need fertilizers, doesn't need lumber, right? We don't have to sell that to the United States. So, we have a market of over 400 million people in Europe, and then there are the ASEAN nations, and then we have our free trade partners in Asia. We have Japan and South Korea. We have Indonesia as well. So, there's other parts of the world, like I said, that we can do business in. We also have those discussions again between the CPTPP nations and the EU nations, seeing if they might want to get together to form one larger trading bloc. We happen to be well positioned as a member of both, not a member of the EU, but with CETA. And on that front, actually, which has been very interesting, because we presented to you some polling data yesterday with regard to how Canada was feeling about the trade war with Mexico, and it was quite revealing, right? But there's another part on this: is our turn towards Europe. How is Canada feeling about that? And very interestingly, on this front, where I think Angus Reid also asked this question specifically. And they asked, should Canada seriously consider initiating a formal process to join the European Union? Yes, 46%, no, 38%. So not a majority of Canadians, but still a plurality, and 8% more saying yes than no. But then they did something very interesting. They looked at it according to party lines. And if you ask NDP voters, should Canada seriously consider initiating a formal process to join the European Union? 51% of NDP voters said yes, 37% said no. So just a slight majority. If you look at Liberal voters, 51% also said yes, same number, 34% said no. So slightly less resistance there. And here's the surprising number. Among Conservative voters, 43% said no, 45% said yes. So even among Conservative voters, 2% more say that we should consider initiating a formal process to join the European Union. That one surprised me. So, and then when asked specifically, Canada must remove barriers with the European Union to more deeply integrate Canada's economy with the EU in order to reduce our dependence on the United States. 12% of Canadians disagree with that. 85% agree. So, mass agreement from coast to coast to coast to a turn towards Europe, less agreement on actually joining the EU, but still 46% say yes. And among Liberal and NDP voters, slightly over a majority, 51%, say yes. That is, and again, with the even conservative voters, slightly more saying yes, which actually really surprised me in terms of the conservative support. But not everybody is necessarily in this boat. The conservative voters are not actually following their party here, who keep on seem to be preaching that we need to cave and get on our back and show our belly and try to get a deal quick and sacrifice absolutely anything to get it now so that we have a minimum of stability. And conservative voters are like, no, I like this idea of turning to Europe, and even though we're not as enthusiastic about joining the EU as Liberals and NDP are, there are more of us who are willing to consider that as a possibility than not. So again, the Conservative Party is not lining up with where Canadians are here on this issue, which I thought was very interesting. There have been a couple of other changes as well going on in the United States. There's something that we've talked about with regard to China in the past, which is called the de minimis charge. And that was a rule in the United States that said if you were a business and you were shipping packages to the United States that had contents or values that was lower than $800, there would be no import duties or tariffs on that. And the United States was looking at reducing that or eliminating that for China for a while, because businesses like Temu and stuff like that managed to do a lot of business in the United States tariff-free that way. Well, it seems that coming into effect later this month, that de minimis charge of $800 is going to be completely eliminated for everyone. Again, we'll see if there'll be some adjustments along the way, but that means if you are a Canadian business and you do a lot of business in the United States by selling things and shipping packages there that have a value lesser than $800, you will soon have tariffs and duties and stuff of the like on that. That will no longer be allowed, which is pretty disappointing. in that sense. But you have to understand that the United States, a lot of this is trying to generate as much revenue as possible to cover those big tax cuts to the rich. And now Trump is even musing aloud, apparently, about eliminating all income tax and fueling everything through tariffs, through consumption tax only, which in one way is not a bad idea, right? Um, if Canada had a higher GST, let's say if the GST was like 20% when we bought things, and there was no income tax whatsoever, right? You could probably reorient your economy that way. There would be different consequences and stuff, but that's that's one way to go. But Trump is trying to do it through tariffs rather than just saying, I'm going to impose a consumer tax, right? So these tariffs are behaving the same way as a consumer tax. But if he had just said, you know what, I'm cutting income tax and I'm substituting that with a consumer tax, and I think that that's a better way to go, that would be wholly internal. Because by doing it this way with tariffs, he gets to create the impression that other people are paying this, which they're not. Because that the United States is raking in so much money because now it's being treated so much fairly and nobody's ripping us off, allegedly. Right? But what it is essentially the money is coming from American citizens, right? So it's a way, but he can turn around and say, well, I'm not imposing a consumer tax, right? These are tariffs against all these bad people who are doing us wrong. But essentially, had he just put on a 15% consumer tax across the board, sorry, we need to raise some money. There's now a sales tax, national sales tax. And there would be less global disruption, clearly, here. The other thing that is going on here at Kits and Cubs is while we are turning to the EU and we have the CPTPP nations and EU nations looking together, and Anita Anand has been out to talk to the ASEAN nations, there's another common market that we don't hear about a lot called Mercosur. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. Mercosur, maybe. And that's that's the Southern Common Market. And it's a South American trade bloc established by the Treaty of Asunción in 1991 and the Protocol of Ouro Preto in 1994. Its full members are Argentina, I'm having trouble today, Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Venezuela is a full member but has been suspended since December 1st, 2016. Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Panama, Peru, and Suriname are associate countries. And the way that Mark Carney has things organized right now is that Dominique Leblanc is the point person on trade in the cabinet for the United States only. But we do have a minister of international trade that is handling all the files except the United States at this moment. And that man is Maninder Sidhu. And according to a Canadian press article by Dylan Robertson, he is busy doing his own thing on the side as well. And I think you will find this interesting. Ottawa's new trade minister says he's looking to sign deals in South America, Southeast Asia, Africa, and beyond, and to convince businesses to actually use the trade agreements Canada has already signed. As I mentioned before, right? Our 15 free trade agreements with covering 51 different countries. Quote, my primary role as Canada's top salesman is to be out there hustling, opening doors for businesses and accessing new markets, Maninder Sidhu told the Canadian press. My phone has been ringing with opportunities because people want to deal with reliable, stable trading partners. Prime Minister Mark Carney has asked Dominique Leblanc, as minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade. Sidhu's job focuses on countries other than the U.S. Export Development Canada says Ottawa has 15 free trade agreements covering 51 countries, offering Canadian exporters preferential access to over 1.5 billion consumers. It's amazing how the articles I'm going to are mentioning things that I picked up and remembered after. But Sidhu said Canadian businesses could be doing a lot more to look beyond the US, particularly as Washington threatens and imposes a range of tariffs. Sidhu served 4 years as parliamentary secretary in roles reflecting all three branches of Global Affairs Canada: aid, trade, and diplomacy. The job saw him represent Canada in trade promotion events in Southeast Asia and security forums in the Caribbean. Sidhu worked as a customs broker before politics, a job that focuses on navigating red tape and tariffs to secure the best rate for trading goods. We probably couldn't have a person more qualified for this particular position than this guy at the moment. Sidhu said he plans to visit Brazil soon as the South American country seeks to revive trade talks that kicked off in 2018 between the Mercosur trade bloc and Canada. So that's what I was talking to you about. There are the Mercosur nations, that whole bloc. And you'll remember several episodes ago when we saw Jair Bolsonaro really not be impressed with Trump wanting to impose 50% tariffs because what was going on with Bolsonaro. So not Bolsonaro, so with going on with Bolsonaro, but President Lula da Silva is what I meant, the current president. Lula da Silva, with what's going on with Bolsonaro, had responded to what Trump did by imposing the tariffs and essentially said that Trump wanted to be the emperor of the world and that Brazil was not going to have it, that Brazil doesn't have all that much direct trade with the United States, and anything it gets from the United States and that it sells to the United States, it can get from other places. So it's not going to affect them all that much, and has been standing up and actually to the United States, and actually on record in an interview with Christian Amanpour made it very clear that in Brazil, Donald Trump would be on trial for what it is that he did in the United States with regard to January 6th. Yeah, De Silva has no fucks to give. And I had mentioned that were I Prime Minister Mark Carney, I would be on the phone with Lula da Silva going, "Hey, want to be besties?" And that's when one of the kids actually pointed out, because I had forgotten at the time, that Lula da Silva, the president, was actually invited to the G7 as well. So Prime Minister Carney had invited both Claudia Sheinbaum and the president of Brazil to that G7 meeting in Kananaskis. Well, now it seems that our Minister of Trade is planning to visit Brazil soon. And to revive trade talks that kicked off between the Mercosur trade bloc and Canada. So again, all of those nations, Bolivia, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Panama, Peru, and Suriname. Now, I'm not sure how much there is to do with Argentina, considering that they too have a president at the moment that is, how do you say, special. Yeah, but there is much to be gained here. Again, very interesting. Not only are we saying Hola Mexico, but we're saying Hola Brazil. Could be interesting. His predecessor, Mary Ng, put an emphasis on large trade missions, which took months to plan. The minister would sometimes fill a plane with corporate business leaders, spending a substantial chunk of time in one or two countries. But Sidhu said that he's hoping to bring smaller delegations of companies with him on his trips abroad, with a focus on specific sectors, whether it's South America, Indo-Pacific to Europe, or to Africa. Businesses feel like they're heard, but they're also getting higher level meetings on the opposite side in the countries that we take them into, he said. And Ottawa is also, on the third track, navigating its trade ties with China as the two countries work to revive the decades-old Joint Economic and Trade Commission, a forum to sort out trade irritants. China has been roundly accused of engaging in coercive trade practices and of restricting certain commodities or services like tourism during political disagreements with Ottawa. Sidhu said the goal there is to offer stability to industry with an emphasis on, quote, how do we work through those challenges and how do we make sure that those conversations are facilitated. Sidhu also downplayed the chances of a bilateral trade deal with the United Kingdom. Trade talks collapsed last year over the UK's desire to sell more cheese in Canada and after Britain blocked Canadian hormone-treated beef. Both countries are using a temporary deal put in place after Britain left the European Union, and the UK will soon enter a trade bloc that focuses on the Pacific Rim, Sidhu noted. He said Canada would still be open to a full deal. Quote, if UK and Canadian businesses already have access on 99% of the items that we trade, then if we're looking at trade agreements, we need to make sure that we're getting the best value for our negotiations, Sidhu said. He also said that Canada would consider sector specific agreements with other countries instead of comprehensive deals that span most industries. Quote, we are getting very creative in how we can open up more doors, he said. Sidhu did not name specific countries where Canada might pursue sector specific agreements. Canada had been looking at a trade agreement with India that would be limited to certain sectors before Ottawa suspended talks in 2023 following an assassination the RCMP has linked to New Delhi. Ottawa launched security talks with India this spring and agreed to re-establish high commissioners. Sidhu was circumspect when asked when Canada might re-establish trade talks with India. Quote, this is a step-by-step approach, he said, adding that the eventual return of top envoys will help, quote, to carry out those very important conversations. Sidhu said Global Affairs Canada is still sorting out how Carney's decision to cut spending in all departments will affect the trade branch. Quote, it's really going to be a focused approach of where we can make the best impact. So here in this article, right, we're talking about, well, not in this article, we're not talking about Mexico. That's a whole other thing here. But here we're talking about Brazil specifically. We're talking about the Mercosur countries specifically. We're talking about China because China doesn't get a lot of talk loudly because with everything that's going on in the United States. But again, we have those tariffs on seafood and agricultural products because we agreed with the Biden administration to put the extra tariffs on EVs from China. And again, lots of discussion in Canada about whether or not we should maintain those sanctions for the benefit of coordination with the United States, given the United States is not being helpful in order to act on those tariffs from China to have them reduced. But because we are at least working together about reviving this mechanism, the Joint Economic and Trade Commission, that we can sort out the irritants, that would be a good step forward. So it's not for people that are wondering, what's going on with China. We are working on China, right? There's a whole track for that, but it's just not as because both parties involved in these negotiations are behaving like rational actors. It's happening quietly behind the scenes, as diplomacy normally should happen. But it's not that there's nothing going on here, right? It hasn't been abandoned. And then we're talking about the UK specifically because there were trade talks that too has not been abandoned. But if the UK is planning to join the CPTPP anyway, right? And we already do have that deal with them, that temporary deal that we put in place once they left the EU, so that because we had a trade deal with the EU and not with the UK specifically. So we agreed that whatever terms that we were using with the EU would still apply to the UK while the UK was trying to sort itself out. So if we already have that, they're planning to join the CPTPP anyway, is there any real need for a specific deal between Canada and the United States that wouldn't be covered? Not the United States, the United Kingdom, sorry, that wouldn't be covered by either what we have now already or the CPTPP, right, which are terms that we've already agreed to. So again, no big rush on that one specifically. And then when he's talking about sector-specific agreements, this could be, for example, having a deal with Vietnam specifically on semiconductors, let's say, right? Or on technology, where technological trade will be free, even though we have tariffs or other types of agreements with other types of things. But establishing free trade within specific economic sectors rather than an overall comprehensive deal, which is indeed a creative approach here. So Canada, looking at different ways in doing things and looking at all our partners all around the world and how we can maximize the trade benefits that we already have. So again, these are a lot of things that are going on quietly in the background that we don't have to run around, make a lot of noise, rush to the cameras, brag about, hey, United States, we got other people to deal with. like this. So we don't need to provoke mango madness south of us. But if you're Canadian, you should know. It's like, don't panic, don't worry. Quietly behind the scenes, we are indeed doing the work. All right, kits and cubs. A couple of quick hits before we go. There's some wildfire uh, announcements that have been made. There's a wildfire burning near Holyrood, Newfoundland and Labrador, that has closed Route 60, a main road that runs through the middle of the community and is forcing some residents to evacuate the area. There are evacuation shelters set up at the CBS Arena. Please, that's near Consumption Bay. Residents in Consumption Bay North are once again being asked to evacuate, and the communities of Small Point, Adams Cove, Kingston, Blackhead, and Broad Cove are affected. There's an out-of-control wildfire that's about 1 kilometer from the communities and has grown considerably since being discovered. On Vancouver Island, the Rustley Ridge fire has affected 389 hectares. It's also deemed to be out of control. Officials there are asking people to stay out of the water, to leave room for water bombers and helicopters to land on the water and do what they do without impediment. 390 homes are being evacuated, with another 238 that are on evacuation alert. So that's some important news there. On the labor front at Kits and Cubs, there's a possible return to the picket line for thousands of postal workers who, as Canadian Press reported last week, collectively rejected what Canada Post has been billing as its final offers to unionized urban and rural mail carriers following a 2-week mail-in vote. This is based from iPolitics here. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers said on Friday that 68.5% of urban mail carriers who voted were against the deal, while their rural and suburban colleagues were 69.4% against. Quote, the offer included wage hikes of about 13% over 4 years, but also added part-time workers that Canada Post has said are necessary to keep the postal service afloat. As the Toronto Star points out, the workers, quote, have been in a legal strike position since May 23rd, but their strike action has so far been limited to a ban on overtime work. The union, which has advised members not to accept the offer, lost no time in celebrating the outcome of the vote, which was conducted by the Canadian Industrial Relations Board at the request of Federal Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu, who is now urging both sides to return to the bargaining table and come to an agreement that works for both of them, as per a statement that she posted to her account on Twitter. Quote, with the government's help, the corporation threw everything it had at us, said the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. Quote, the employer launched a propaganda campaign like we've never seen before. For months now, we've heard nothing but scare tactics and fear-mongering from Canada Post, and yet members stood up, stuck together, and they made their votes count. With these votes behind us, Canada Post must now recognize that the only way forward is to negotiate ratifiable collective agreements that meet postal workers' needs. The time for games is over. For its part, Canada Post is, quote, evaluating its next steps. Quote, while we are disappointed in the results, we want to thank employees for participating in the process. This result does not lessen the urgent need to modernize and protect this vital national service. However, it does mean the uncertainty that has been significantly impacting our business and the many Canadians and Canadian businesses who depend on Canada Post will continue. So this was the second vote that they had on this. The union didn't want this particular deal and didn't want the vote, but it was after 1.5 years of negotiations, about 20 months in total. So yes, as I said, the Union of Postal Workers had asked the members to reject it in protest. They did, yes, we'll see what happens at the moment. Minister Hajdu has also mentioned that federal mediators are still available to help with the bargaining process if both parties would like to access them. So we'll see what happens with that. And there's also some news about potential labor action at Air Canada as well that might be on the way. So we'll keep our eyes and ears open for that, Kits and Cubs, and maybe have a little bit more about what's going on at Air Canada on another show for you. Before we go, Kits and Cubs, a little bit of news of Canadians who make us proud. Victoria Mboko is still at it. She can't stop losing, can't stop winning, I should say. She played in her quarterfinal match at the National Bank Open and handily won it in two sets, straight sets, and has advanced to the semifinal there. And she is now, as a result of that victory, risen to number 45 in the world. I think she started the year at 352. So she's just like sizzling her way up the rankings. Two more wins, and she wins the whole thing. And at the moment, uh, she's looking rather unstoppable, I have to say. Next match will be a test, though. She's playing Elena Rybakina from Kazakhstan, I believe, who I believe is ranked number 11 in the world. So could be, again, a big test. But then again, she just took out the number 2 in the world 2 matches ago. So nobody knows where the limit is for her. But right now, it seems like the sky is the limit. And again, success begets success, winning begets winning. And she's playing with such incredible confidence. Yesterday in the match, in the second set, she started a little bit slow. She was down 2-0. And then I think went on to win the next 6 games in a row to close at 6-2. She's just ridiculously phenomenal. So yeah, we'll keep an eye open for her. I believe that her match is not tonight because they get a day off in this new format that they have. So it will be on Wednesday night or Wednesday day. Sorry, here it says at 10 a.m. in the morning will be the semifinal against Rybakina. That sounds like weird. I do not know why that would not be in the evening. But anyway, it just seems like it would be a prime time event here. But yes, we'll keep an eye open for that. But on Wednesday will be the big match. So very, very excited about that. Let's just see where she can go. Hopefully she can win it all. That would be great. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please, please, please tell your peeps and poops all about us. It really makes us happy when you do, especially when you include a word of your own. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like us to help you because you are a busy beaver or a busy cub on the go, and sometimes you're not able to watch with us, well, we have a way to help. Thanks to the Ray Girl, who has sponsored our pod page, podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. So if you scan that QR code that appeared, it will bring you there. And if you are on the go, there you can find, if you click subscribe, our ears only podcast version. And when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, it comes directly to your podcast feed. And that way you can put us in your ears. We're portable and take us with you so you can keep abreast of all the information that you need and still get on with your day. We make it easy. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us, you can do so by surfing on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where nearly 20,500 of you have so far, and play with our buttons there. Like, share, and subscribe, especially subscribe. But please do like and share. And that makes us very happy when you do that, and it helps with the algorithm. It also makes Kids Elaine and Kids Cassie very, very happy as well. And that's very important. So thank you for all that you do to help us, kids and cubs. And as we mentioned, we just crossed 650,000 views. So thank you to everyone who has tuned in since July 1st, 2022, when we established the YouTube site. Kids and cubs, if you would like to help us in yet another way, we work for tips here at the Beaver Lodge. We don't charge any registration fees or annual fees for our show. We just put it out there for you, and we ask you to donate to us and give us what you think that we deserve, if you are able to, of course. And if you would like to help us with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you, well, kids and cubs, you can do that via a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day we do our best to fight the scourge that is dry beaver, because a happy beaver is a moist beaver. So Kids and cubs, if you think that your favorite beaver and grizzly have been doing a good job and you want to give us an add a beaver and add a grizzly via a cup of hot chocolate or a cup of coffee, a little donation to our hydration fund would mean the world to us. Thank you so much. And again, I believe I don't know if I have mentioned it, but I will mention it again just in case. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. That's where you can go. Now, if you are buying Canadian and want to bypass the U.S.A. Tech Bros, then you can do a bank-to-bank transfer via truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That's where you would send your donation kits and cubs. And when you do that, not only do the CE Tech Bros don't get to be the middleman that to take a cut from it, but we get 100% of your donation and you're buying Canadian. So it's win-win-win. So we thank you so very much for all that you do to help us. Your enthusiastic expressions of encouragement do mean the world to us. And as we mentioned, if you're not able to contribute financially, the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can write to us to let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, or if you have some guest suggestions, we love to hear from you. So thank you, for writing to us. We appreciate it. And if you want to reach us via our socials, @TrueEager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge. Very important. Also on the shitter and Kits and Cubs. If you want to reach us at our original home on the web, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook. And if you happen to be listening on YouTube, either live with the DAMFAM or at your own convenience, right down here in the comments section, leave us a little something. We read absolutely everything you send us, even though we are not able to necessarily answer everyone. And everything that you send us in terms of either a written contribution or a financial one gets put back into the show to make a better show for you. So thank you for all you do to support us. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, we cannot forget Mr. Thomas Lukasik on a mission here at Kits and Cubs to make sure that Canada remains a united country and that Alberta remains within Canada with this citizen initiative effort. And at the moment, he needs to collect close to $300,000 signatures in order to make sure that the question does get on the ballot. And to do so, there's a group called Forever Canadian that has been established, and you can go to their website, www.forever-canadian.ca, and there you could pledge to sign the petition. This is, of course, if you are Albertan. You can become a canvasser to help collect some petitions. You can make a donation to the group so to help fund their activities, or you can suggest that you are available to volunteer in other capacities. So www.forever-canadian.ca. Please go there and do your bit. It seems that things are going very well. The initial response is very enthusiastic. Hopefully, Mr. Lukasik will have absolutely no trouble getting his close to 300,000 signatures and a bit more so that we sign the numbers too great for Danielle Smith to manipulate. Very, very important, because we know what kind of person that she is. Kids and Cubs, words of wisdom. I'm not really good on the wisdom part. Mr. Grizzly's better on this part. But Kids and Cubs, I would say words of wisdom. Take a risk today, a calculated risk, but take a risk. Go a little bit outside your box. Push yourself. Right? Whatever it is, whether you're playing a sport, whether it's something at work, something at home, whether you're deciding that you're treating yourself to go out to eat and try something on the menu you haven't tried before. But take a little bit of a risk today. See what happens. All right? But a calculated one. Don't be foolish. Kids, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, at the count of 3, if I may ask for your indulgence, could you please say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Ah, so beautiful. I must oblige.
Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors. The Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. I didn't quite stick the landing there, did I, kids? Superstar. Oh, man. I was doing so well. Kids and Cubs, before we go, we also have one more little bit of Canadians who make us proud, and I am very, very, very happy to report this. But over the course of the weekend was the first ever International Wheelchair Basketball Federation 3-on-3 World Championships. So there have been, full team basketball championships for a while now, I think since the 70s. But in terms of 3-on-3 competition, this is new. The first ever World Championships were held at Sun City in the Republic of South Africa, and Team Canada got to the gold medal final in both the men's and women's competition, and so did Spain. So both of the finals were Canada versus Spain. In the women's final, Katie Dondino had delivered an impressive performance. She was on a mission to bring home gold for Canada over Spain, 17-12. Canada was unbeaten in the women's tournament, and Australia did take bronze. So Dondino was named the tournament MVP, while her teammate Elodie Tessier collected the tournament all-star honors there at the tournament. And hopefully, I don't have the names of the other two people on the team, unfortunately, so I can't single them out by name, unfortunately. And then in the men's final, after getting off to a slow start, Team Canada picked it up and defeated Spain 12-9 to also win the gold. So double gold for Canada, sweeping the first World Championships. Poland took the bronze, and in this one, Colin Higgins was the MVP, playing like he was on a mission. And it was a grudge match because in pool play, Spain had defeated Canada there. So great performances by our wheelchair basketball athletes here. And I'm going to give you a chance. I'm not able to name them, but I can definitely show them to you, kids and cubs. So there's the women's team, and there is the men's team with their medals and their championship trophies over there, having done a really fantastic job for Canada, setting the standard, because it was the first ever World Championships on 3-on-3 basketball. And with really good news is that the World Championships for 3-on-3 wheelchair basketball will actually be hosted in Canada. Ottawa will be the host of the next year's championships in 2026. That will be held from September 9th to September 19th. So kids and cubs, if you happen to have the opportunity to get out to it, it's absolutely fantastic. The finals were extremely interesting, very physical, particularly the men's final. My God, they kept banging into each other, and there were wheelchairs flipping over and them having to flip themselves back up to upright positions. Really something else. Here, I managed to find the names. The Canadian women's team was comprised of Katie Dondino of Pender Island, British Columbia, Tamara Steeves of Mississauga, Ontario, Elodie Tessier of Saint-Germain-de-Gotham in Quebec, and Toronto's Poussant Lai. And the men's team, hopefully, we'll be able to have all their names there. Vincent Dallaire from Quebec City, Colin Higgins of Rothsay, New Brunswick, Lee Melimick of Toronto, and Garrett Ostapchuk of Regina. So again, fantastic results for both of them, making Canada proud, and both of them bringing home the gold. Our athletes are just giving us so much to cheer about. We have like Summer at the World Championships, Aquatics Championships, and then everybody else that won medals as well, because she wasn't the only one. I was looking at it. If Summer McIntosh was a country unto herself, she would have finished in 8th place on the medal table. 8th place alone. She's just phenomenal. There was a swimmer from Germany as well who won 4 gold, mostly in the open water swim categories, but had won 4 and then swam in the 1500 and was hoping to make it a 5th one there, but didn't win the 1500 in pool. But Summer McIntosh, Victoria Mboko, women's and men's wheelchair basketball 3-on-3 teams, just bringing in all the glory. We are very, very, very spoiled. But hey, it's nice to have to be able to end the show on a positive note, celebrating Canadians who make us proud. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I have for you. Wish me luck on the tennis courts today. And we will see you tomorrow. And please join us, because we will have a guest with us, Emma Sachs, who is a swimming official who will be here with us. And we will talk about the World Aquatics Championships and celebrate Canada's success, and look into a little bit what goes into swimming and being that type of athlete and organizing that type of competition, and where Canada can go, because not only did we do very well, but we had a lot of 4th places here as well, and lots of growth and development. So the team is growing, and there's much more potential. So we'll be able to talk about all of that, and she's just delightful as well. So I'm sure you will all enjoy her. Until we see each other tomorrow, kids and cubs, amour et bisous. I love you all very much.